everybody. Welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast, and we are talking on friendship. This is very exciting. We love doing this every month, and we're talking about a Hallmark movie or Hallmark-like movie from the perspective of friendship and other relationships. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and we have with us, of course, every month, we have Alysa Lucas, who is the
Hello.
expert on friendship.
Hi, everybody.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm good. I'm excited to talk about this movie.
Yeah, me too. So this month we are talking about one of my favorite movies from last Christmas season. This actually aired on the Up channel, not on Hallmark, and it's Christmas on Fifth Avenue. It is based on the novel by Sarah Morgan called Miracle on Fifth Avenue, which I really enjoyed as well. And I just think it's a very well done movie. It's kind of a Beauty and the Beast theme to it, and I'm a sucker for that. And so it's going to be fun to talk about. But it's interesting because it's kind of it's kind of an amazing thing that I even saw this movie, because normally
Mhm,
I don't cover the Up movies. The
mhm.
girls at the Do Once on an Upside here on Hallmarkies podcast cover the Up movies, but I happen to have like a little break in time.
What?
And this is
How?
happened
Impossible. Impossible.
like during Thanksgiving, or just after Thanksgiving. Anyway, the movie aired, and I we get the screeners from the from Up, which is so nice, and we appreciate it. And I just watched it, and I loved this movie. I liked it so much that I contacted Up after I watched it, and this was after it had aired. And I said, I really want to talk to these stars in this movie. So they came on
Mm,
the podcast,
nice.
and we had a great interview with them. And like normally, once a movie is aired, I wouldn't do that. It's
Yeah.
not worth it for anybody involved. But I just enjoyed it so much, and so we had Catherine Davis and Olivia Renaud on the pod, and it was such a good interview. They were incredible.
Yay.
Yeah, and so I just really enjoyed this movie. I thought they had incredible chemistry, and I thought it just built up the relationship very well. I thought the banter was really solid between the two of them. And even though it was a fast relationship, I bought it because I think they had just such good chemistry, and I bought that this sort of intense time together,
Mhm.
spending all this time together, that they could know.
Yeah.
They could know. And anyway, so I'm excited to talk to you about it, but
Yeah.
overall, what did you think of it after me giving that introduction?
Well, how do I top that? No, I really enjoyed it. And I thought the female lead as Eva was one of the most adorable
Yes.
individuals I've ever seen, and I was really thought she was awesome.
Mhm.
I liked him. He reminded me a little bit of the actor who played Nick Stokes on CSI. So
Oh.
I was kind of getting that vibe. Maybe it's because he was like a crime writer, and so um but I thought overall that Eva had more to contribute to the relationship than Lucas did, although he has a
Mhm.
great name. His first name is my last name. I'm looking forward to
Right. I didn't think of
talking.
that.
I'm looking forward to talking about it because
Yeah.
I was like, okay, Eva, you're amazing.
Yeah,
We
and
need
even in the interview, I thought I've interviewed lots of couples on the podcast, as far as like they're not like couples in real life but play a
Mhm.
couple in a movie. I've done that many times.
Yes.
They had, I think, the best chemistry
Mhm,
of any couple
mhm.
I've ever interviewed.
You're
I
like, "So you doing in real life?" No. They probably hate that 'cause people
let's
just
just
have
say,
such good chemistry.
if they had told me that they were a couple, I would have bought it. But they're
Yeah,
not. So
yeah.
don't so I don't want to start a
They're
rumor or
also
anything. They're not.
they're like, it's called acting, but it is also helpful
Yeah.
when the actors have good chemistry.
Yeah. They were so cute together, and
Yeah.
and and then of course in this movie, and to me, he actually reminds me a lot of Zac Efron. I think he
Oh,
looks quite a
I
bit
was
like.
still I was on the Nick Stokes thing the whole time that I didn't even consider any other options. Yeah, that Zac Efron is a little bit younger, but yeah, I could see that.
Is Zac Efron younger?
He's only like in his 30s.
I
He's
mean, I don't think this.
he's okay.
No, let's
You
see how old
continue
he is. No.
talking. Yeah, I'll look up Zac Efron. You look up the guy in this movie because I mean, I always think of Zac Efron as young because he was in the High School Musical movies when I was older. So
Let's see here.
he is
I think.
34.
Oh, you're right. So Olivia
Thank
Renat is.
you. That doesn't happen often. Thank you.
Olivia Renat is 44. So I didn't think he was. I thought they were closer
A
in age.
younger
10 years
brother. They
difference.
could be in a movie together. Younger, he could
Yeah.
be the older brother. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
that
I
would be
see it.
good.
I see
Yeah.
it. Sorry, I don't know why I'm like weirdly obsessed with Zac Efron.
The other thing that I think they nailed in this movie, which they almost never get right in these TV movies, is the apps slash her online presence
Oh
with the
yeah.
app.
It's like they
The-
forget how the internet works.
yeah, I mean, I thought this was a realistic app. I can imagine it,
Yeah.
Urban Genie. I can imagine, especially in a place like New York, this being a thing and
Yeah.
working.
I agree. And then I can also see it with the idea of Genie and a Wish. It could get very ugly for employees because some people are not as sweet and generous as Eva.
That's true.
You gotta be careful. They have to screen those requests. Is all I'm saying.
Well, I mean, and I think they do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they come in um and it starts out the movie with her helping these carolers
Yeah, that
for
was
a
funny. I was
genie
like, what is
request.
happening?
hmm And I've seen this movie a lot of times because, again, thank you to Up TV because the screener link still works, and I'm so grateful because
They're
it's not
probably like,
available any other way right now. So next
mm,
time they air it on Up TV this season, make sure to record it because
yeah, DVR people.
yeah, because you want it. But anyway, we have still the link to watch it, and so the I've watched it many times, and I actually had never really noticed this whole beginning with the carolers. I don't know why I just like zoom ahead, but
Yeah.
it's they do establish that this I again I've seen so many of these movies that have terrible apps that would never be real that I can't
Yeah.
imagine anybody actually. And this one was like, okay, I can imagine in New York, especially,
Oh yeah.
basically it's basically like a concierge service.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like, what did she do? She brought coffee or tea or something, and she brought books to make it look like
hmm
they were like they had something to look at when they're caroling, and then peppermints because everyone needs
Yeah.
fresh breath.
Right. And I also think the name is refreshing because Urban Genie is something, I mean, I think it's a good name.
Yeah.
And also, it's something that you could do year round. So many times in these movies, you have these businesses where I mean, I realize there are seasonal businesses,
Yeah.
but they have
You're
these,
like, how are you making it the rest of the time? Like,
like,
what else are you doing?
I was glad that it wasn't the Urban Elf, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or something like that. You're like, no, you need your business to be able to run all year.
Yeah, even if it's might be busiest at Christmas, then,
Uh-huh.
they're yeah, it
Yeah.
totally and she already had clients and, there were people that continuously used it, so that is a great business model.
Yeah. And I don't know if you know that the actress who plays Eva, Catherine Davis, she is from the UK. So she has a British accent in real life. Isn't that
What?
amazing? Yeah.
Even more adorable.
Yeah.
Bring her in with a British
I
accent.
loved her
What?
so much. I did. I loved her so much.
Yeah, I was like, I would watch probably any one of these movies with her, right? Like,
Oh,
she's just, there's sometimes like people who are fine and they make it through, but then there's other ones where you're
yeah.
like, I could see you making movies here forever.
Yes. And if you watch our Hallmarkies Podcast Award, this is the movie that won for Best Non-Hallmark Christmas Movie, which
Oh
I
yeah, I
fully
see
support.
that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
totally see that.
Yes. And they gave their acceptance speech wearing elf attire because they're both going to be in a new Christmas
Ooh.
movie coming up this year. And I am hyped. I'm so.
This is Rachel Super Bowl,
Yeah,
y'all.
that's right. I cannot wait because I love them in this so much. And I.
Those just sound like fun people too. Like, all right,
Yeah.
like, let's be friends. I'm on
Yeah.
board.
And really, with most of these movies, chemistry is 90% of the battle. Like, you could
Yes.
have the most ridiculous story, and we have had them.
Yeah.
But if I'm vibing the couple and I'm feeling
Yeah.
it, I'm
Yeah,
fine. And this,
you wanna cheer for them, right? Like,
yeah.
if they're gonna the point is they're gonna get together, but if you're like, "Nah, yeah."
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, this does have a good story because it's based on a very good book. And I have to
Yeah.
say, the book is spicier than this,
Ooh.
obviously.
Hello.
Yes. It's got some steam in it.
Hey.
But it is pretty close other than that to
Mm,
this movie.
yeah.
It's the same basic story. The big difference is that they make his experience with his wife a lot darker, and that
Oh,
she actually was going to divorce him and didn't really love him or treat him well.
oh my god.
Yeah, so there's sort of a darker backstory of kind of why
Well,
he feels
it's
conflicted.
pretty dark to lose a wife in
Yeah.
any way, but there is something that always hits me right in the heart and stomach when it's like
Mhm.
someone's like, "I don't love you anymore." And you're like, "Oh my god, that's just seems painful."
Yeah. It is. It's
Woo.
tough. And so she starts to kind of dig in and realize there's a lot more kind of going on that even like his mother doesn't know. Nobody knows. Everyone thinks his wife was this angel, this great person. And so he's got all these conflicted emotions.
See, I
And
wish a little bit more of that would have been added in because my one concern with this movie, and I know we'll start a little
mhm.
bit, we got to the carolers and the genie wish, is that I felt like she was bringing everything to the relationship and he wasn't really bringing anything. And I think that maybe knowing a little bit more of his background might have
Yeah.
helped.
Well, I think
But
that's why it's useful to think of it as sort of a Beauty and the Beast kind of story,
mhm.
basically. I mean, and he does start to kind of change, and we'll talk more about it. And then the ending, of course, is his
Well,
big
again,
moment. But
he needed to change. Eva didn't. She was great.
yeah, that's
And
true.
so
That's
so it's kinda like,
true.
okay, she makes you a better person. Well, you're just lucky to be in her
Yeah.
presence because she's awesome, right?
Well, I
Like,
mean,
so
that's why I'm saying like Beauty and the Beast,
yeah.
because Beast is the one who had to change, for Belle. And
Well, the only thing I think about that is why do in like the grand collective, not this movie in particular, but like the
right.
trope or the idea that women have to change men to make them acceptable when women are amazing. I'm like, go find someone else amazing too. You know what I mean? Like,
That's fair. There is
I don't
something
like
of
that
a
trope. You know what I
this
mean?
this movie walked a very fine line with Manic Pixie Dream Girl, and I think it because which is Manic Pixie Dream Girl is the trope of the girl who's just there to basically cheer up the guy and be like this
Yes.
special perky spot in his life, and I could see people making that critique. I actually asked them about that in the interview, but I
Awesome.
think that they have such great chemistry,
Yeah.
and she's so likable. She's not like annoying twee kind of person,
Yeah.
and there is like a little bit of heart to her
Mhm.
that I think avoids that. Like I said, it walks that fine line for me.
Yeah.
But basically, it starts off with his mother is scheming about how she can help him to overcome this loss of his wife, Sally Ann, and it's a difficult time of year because it happened during. I swear nobody dies in other times of the year. And everyone always
Yeah.
dies at Christmas. But
Terrible.
the mom hires at first she hires Eva to help with her dog, I believe.
Yes. Cute
And
little palm, wasn't
yeah, yeah.
it?
And so then she hires her to go to this Fifth Avenue apartment and decorate the apartment, get it ready, so she can hopefully cheer up Lucas.
Mm.
But she gets there, and of course, you meet Charlie the doorman, who was adorable.
Yeah, loved it.
He was great. And then they have he turns out she thought that he was going to be in Vermont.
Because that's where
And
he was supposed to be
yeah.
working on his next book. Get to work, buddy.
And he's a crime novelist, kind of like
Yes.
you're like Tom Wolfe or
Yeah.
Anne Perry or someone like that. And and so they have this really cute meet cute where she almost rams him in with the door.
Well, because he's not supposed to be there, so she's
Yeah.
just walking around the house making a few judgments, but that's fine. She's sizing up her new job, and then he hears a noise, which I don't know why he didn't hear her talking to herself beforehand, or the fact that she has heels on, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then he goes up to the door and she slams into his face. And then they both think someone's in the house. So they're both gonna call the cops.
Yeah. And then she holds that candy cane. And he's like,
Oh,
really?
yeah.
Candy cane?
She's like, what does she say? Something like, women like me can make anything into a weapon. And I was like, okay, girl. She was like, here's a little tidbit you can add to your next crime novel.
Yeah, somebody with my skill can turn anything into a weapon.
Yeah, she does have a lot of skills.
Yeah, she's so charming. I just
Yeah.
loved her so much. And she says, I've already rented out my apartment. Please help me. He agrees to let her stay in the guest room. He says, do what you do. Just don't bother me.
Okay, Grinch.
Yeah,
Whatever.
good luck with that.
Welcome to the Pilot Podcast. My name is BJ.
And my name is Me Too, and we promise this promo is worth it, so please don't skip ahead.
We're two judgy friends who put our judgmental skills to work for you. We review the pilot episodes of new and popular shows, and shows that our listeners request to answer your question, should I watch this?
Look, a lot of us are spending a lot more time at home, and yes, we should be reading and trying new projects and enriching ourselves, but does anything beat binging a great show?
Let us take the guesswork out of deciding what your next show will be. Tune in to The Pilot Podcast at thepilotpodcast.com.
And I did like when he says that, she says, I'm rooming with Scrooge, not mean Scrooge, sad alone Scrooge. And
Yeah,
again, that's what makes his character likable and endearing.
That was and because she didn't know entirely why he might be locked up in his penthouse. He's supposed to be in Vermont writing. Yeah. I think he was just not being honest with his mother or perhaps himself. And so he's sort of gloomy Gus in his penthouse, hadn't left for weeks or whatever. Yeah. And that, the only thing I don't have many gripes about this movie. One was we already talked about, where I feel like he didn't add as much to the relationship as she did because she was great. The second one was, for someone who's pretty depressed and in writer's block, he is dressed to the nine inside his penthouse every day. And I'm like, buddy, have you heard of, wearing pajamas, not changing your clothes? I was we can't even have nice pajamas to put up the, you're not going anywhere and you're not seeing anyone. Why are you wearing jeans inside your house?
Well, also, that's true.
It just bothered me so much. I was like, what? The pants I have on right now, these sweatpants I wore yesterday. Talk, friends.
Alysa, not everybody's as much of a housefrau as you and I are.
I love living in my house. The only thing, my one gripe with my house, is that it doesn't have a fenced-in backyard. So I have to walk Finn 6 or 7 times a day. Other than that, I love living in my house. And the 2-day-old sweatpants I wore, I just took them outside and them, whatever. Hi, neighbors. I'm cozy in my own house.
I try to at least put on jeans and a t-shirt or respectable pants. Just because.
I'm sorry. Is this... People live like this? I mean...
Jeans. I jeans were like high
Jeans
fashion.
are
I mean,
uncomfortable. Like if you're like lounging around the house, they're not comfortable.
I have
That's
pretty
like
comfortable
wearing a
jeans.
bra all day, 24/7. What is happening?
Well, I'm
Okay.
not crazy. I don't do that.
Okay, listeners, who are you wearing sweatpants or respectable pants? I need to know, am I living my life wrong? I just was like, this guy thinks he's going to write the next bestseller in black jeans? I don't think so.
But the one thing I didn't buy is that that Charlie would have literally never seen him. I mean, you have to get food, even if you have like Uber Eats and stuff. Like you'd still have to
Yeah.
go down to the lobby to get your food.
Well,
Like
he didn't have much in the house, so who knows? Like maybe
he'd have to. I mean,
he's
Charlie
a
would
little
have had to have
depressed,
seen him.
Rachel. He's a little well,
A lot depressed, but you still have to eat.
that's true. He could have been eating boxed macaroni and cheese for weeks. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe his pantry was stocked and he was down to his last granola bar when she showed up.
Oh my gosh. Well, she finds the snowflake ball invitation in the recycling.
I was glad he put it in the recycling. When I saw him put it in there, I was like, if he just put that in the trash without like okay, that was my third gripe. I was like, excuse me, sir. And then I was like, oh, there's two sides. Never mind, continue.
So we find out that she has a forever family, that she was in foster care for a long time, and then her parents, her adopted parents adopted her. And so she has some, sadness that she's dealt with in her life. And that's part of why, she wants to bring joy to other people. But then her parents can't afford the trip.
Yeah.
And this becomes important later on to come out to visit. And she's so busy with her app that she can't go visit them.
Yeah.
I thought in general, this is just like a tiny detail, but I actually really liked the music for this movie, which typically is not the best, and I'm very forgiving.
Yeah.
But they had a lot of traditional carols that were background music, which I appreciated. And then I thought it was really funny when she starts singing King Wenchless and she doesn't know the words, and because like nobody knows the words to that song.
Here's the thing, except for the carolers and her singing off tune, I didn't notice the music.
Yeah.
And so that's probably a good thing. It wasn't like distracting.
Well, it's probably the kind of thing you notice since I've watched the movie like 5 times.
Yeah.
So like, oh,
whereas
damn.
like I might notice more something like in a movie, like the score that I think of like The Firm when it has like the piano, or like Last of the Mohicans as a classic, and
I mean it's not on that
like
level,
Top Gun,
but like
Top Gun with all the fun tracks. Like I guess I didn't notice it, and that good news or bad news, I don't know.
I thought it was a nice little detail that I noticed this watch. And in some movies that I even like The 9 Lives of Christmas, they make the music so precocious and loud that the background music, and so it is distracting even for a movie that I like. But anyway, there was just like a little deal, but I did think it was funny that
when you can notice the music either in good way or bad way. So we have a new sub shop in town, and I went to get a sub, and the music was so loud that I was like, how are people like, it was obnoxious. And so that's probably what you're talking about, is so loud that you can't do anything else. And then they were like, what kind of sub you want? And then I said, and they couldn't hear me. And I was like, well, you think you might want to turn it down?
But there's so many songs that we basically know the first verse, but then we don't know. I mean, at least most people don't know unless you've done it for a performance or something.
Yeah.
But her singing Good King Wenchless and being like blah 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 blah, that made me laugh. And then he says, you decided to bother me with your off-key singing.
Yeah. She thought that the headphones were going to stop him from hearing her music. But if music makes you sing, she has forgotten that noise-canceling headphones don't cancel out your voice.
Yeah, and I asked Catherine, I said, what was it like to sing off-key? Because she's a professional singer. She's very good. And anyway, so she was saying, she's like,
She's
that was hard.
perfect. She is amazing. She
She
can
is
sing, British
amazing.
accent. She's killing it.
But then she suggests having Christmas berries, which I didn't know that was a thing.
I was
And
like,
with-
are they in season?
No, I don't think so. Maybe.
I was like, I don't even know what's in season in December.
Well, I mean, you typically have what's the like fruit
Cranberries.
of? I mean, you have a lot of oranges. You hear
Yum.
about in
Yeah.
cranberries.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, duh, cranberries.
Come on, Rachel. You've seen how many Hallmark and Hallmark-like movies?
Yeah. But then she combines them with peppermint scones and peppermint with berries. That seems very weird to me.
I'm like, unless peppermints with chocolate, I'm gonna say no.
And he says, I'm morally opposed to festive themed foods.
Good stuff.
So then she gets the Christmas tree, and he's like, that's a big tree. But it was a big space. I mean, she's correct.
Yeah.
It would look weird to have like a 5-foot tree.
Yeah,
in
like,
that big
come on, buddy.
space.
This isn't like a 3-foot Target tree that you can pull out every year. This is like, you have this big, lonely penthouse space. I'm surprised you're not filling it up with other things to distract you
Mhm.
from all the depressing things happening with your black jeans on. Like, I don't.
So then she makes him chicken pot pie
Yum, I
and
wanted
says,
some.
this is the ultimate comfort food. Do you agree?
We did not have a pot pie growing up. Like, that was not something I ever really had, except maybe like at someone else's house, or like I bought myself the microwave kind or whatever. So I don't think I've had a true pot pie. So when she was talking about it, though, I was like, that sounds freaking delicious. And I was like, let me get on Pinterest and start seeing if I can make my own pot pie. I would say the ultimate comfort food for me is probably macaroni and cheese. So that's because I've made it myself. I can buy the microwave. I can buy some from Noodles and Company. I can have my mom's, my grandma, like I've had lots of macaroni and cheese, but we didn't grow up eating pot pie. How about you?
There are a lot of comfort foods. One that I think of, though, is a weird one. my mom would, when my dad was out of town, my mom would make this cream of tuna over rice.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
Cream of tuna?
Yeah, and she would make it because with like the white tuna, not the red tuna, like the.
So it would be like a tuna casserole, essentially.
Yeah, it was kind of like a tuna casserole.
Yeah, I like tuna casserole. Okay, when you said cream of tuna, I don't know where my mind went, but I was like, what is happening?
So my dad hates it. And so my mom would make it when he was gone. And so it became kind of a comfort food because it was the thing that we had when we were sad that our dad was gone,
Your dad's just like, I'm glad they didn't have it when I was here. The kids are all sad. Dad's happy. He's not eating cream of tuna.
Yeah. And so just the other day, I had a cold and I made cream of tuna over rice because it's something just it's so comforting, that.
Yeah, I made my first. Like, I've made lasagna before, but it's not something that I make myself a lot. And when I was doing clean eating, I think I was doing like 10 years ago, where it's like you eat like 5 ingredient items or whatever. And so I would make like the zucchini lasagna instead of noodles.
Yeah.
But I made my first white sauce lasagna with vegetables, and I destroyed it. I prefer white sauce over red sauce, and so that, like, anything with white sauce, I'm like, yes, please.
Spaghetti and meatballs is a big comfort food for me.
Throw some like the Parmesan. You know how they're like, tell us when to stop, and I'm like, 5 minutes go by.
I think I've told this story many times on the podcast, so bear with me. But when I was just miserable at my job, I hated this job that I had, and I was in my late 20s, and we had this like service auction at church for our Sub for Santa, where you put up different things that you would do, and then people would buy them, like washing their car or whatever. And so I put up, pick 3 meals I'll make for you. And there was this guy in in the congregation that was a nice guy, but he was so boring to me. Like whenever you would ask him, like, what's your favorite book or whatever, he would be like, "Oh, I don't know. And you're just like, I'm
Snoozeville,
just trying to
having a
start
place.
conversation with you. Like, please. Oh my gosh. And he would make me crazy. Of course, he won the thing. So I was like, oh, great. And so he said, what food do you want? And he was just like, oh, whatever. The only thing he
Oh my
said
God.
is that don't include mushrooms. I was
Okay.
like, that really helps me a lot. So I decided that I was going to make Ina Garten's spaghetti and meatballs because I'm like, well, if he's not going to decide, I might as well just make what I like.
Yeah.
My favorite food. One of my favorite
Obviously.
foods.
Yeah.
And so, of course, that night, this is like a huge tangent, but whatever. Of course, that night, I had to work late and I didn't get home until like 7:30. And I was just so determined. I was like, I'm not letting this horrible job steal this meal from me. I am going to make it if it kills me. And I don't think that we actually ate until like 9:30. And my roommate joined in. I was like, please, I don't have anything to say to this person. Anyway, and so I'm eating this meal and I just started crying because I was exhausted, but also it just hit me that why isn't the rest of my life this good? Why isn't the rest of my life happy? Why am I miserable? And it was sort of the starting point of kind of making changes and saying like, no, I can't live this way anymore. I cannot be this unhappy this long. And it wasn't until that December that I actually like quit and that was finished. And
that's good for
I'll
you.
always remember that. And anytime I eat spaghetti meatballs, it's a real comfort food
You're like,
for me.
it made me cry and it got me past Mr. Boring and it helped me.
Yeah, and he was, and they were like, yeah, it is good. They were kind of like, what's wrong with
why
her?
is she crying? It's like, it's good, but like, what's happening? No, that's amazing.
So if you ever come visit, I'll make you that. It is the
yes,
best
and
recipe.
then will we cry together?
Yes, we'll cry. I am the perfect person to be with if you ever do a epic quit. I am the one you want in your corner.
Noted.
Okay, good. All right. I like they said that sleep is overrated.
Yeah, I was like, buddy, you're wearing jeans in your house and you're not going anywhere and you're not sleeping and you're not eating. Like, this is like the good stuff in life. Go to sleep, eat some food, wear
As a
some
fellow
pajamas.
insomniac, I appreciated that comment.
As someone who loves sleep and would be like, terrible.
She says, how can you write about life if you aren't actually living it?
Touche.
And then he says, you have an unrealistic and perky view on life. And then she says, you might be a good writer, but you're a terrible judge of character.
Oh, snap. Get him, Eva. Well, one of the things is like, there's such thing as toxic positivity. If you're dealing with the tough emotions, but then the rest of the time you're positive, I don't see any problem with it. But if you're in denial of things going on, then that's problematic. She didn't seem to be in denial of anything per se. And so I was like, listen, buddy, don't poo-poo on other people's parades.
Yeah, well, and she obviously had experienced some tough things in her life. Like, again, that's why she's not the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, which she could have easily been. She uses the fireplace for the first time. That she says it makes a house feel like a home. I don't have a
that
fireplace.
Was shocking. I was like, I would be using that all the time. But the other thing was, I was like, and this is you'll probably understand this. I was like, where's the TV? Because when they sit by the fire to do like Garland, is that what it is with like the popcorn and cherries or whatever? They were watching
they're
watching
something.
And I I was like,
oh, you're right.
That big ass house? I was like, you need a large television. This is unacceptable. It's fine if you're eating or working or in bed and you're on a laptop or iPad, but I was like, can we get if you live in the penthouse, sir, can we get a nice television?
Well, and
Please and
also
thank
making
you.
those popcorn chains takes so long. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, does anybody actually do those?
Not
'Cause
anymore. They do like 2 feet and then they're like, looks good.
it takes a long time. But so he's blocked, and she tells him that she says, "I'm not going to apologize for who I am, and not going to make you either." And so that's good. She accepts him for who he is, and she encourages him to make grilled cheese instead of a gourmet meal.
Yeah, and so
And
by blocked, you mean writer's block. For a second, I
yes.
was like, did she block him? No, writer's block.
Oh,
And
you mean on Twitter?
yeah, I was
No.
like, wait a second. I did like that. Like sometimes we try to do too much, and she's like, focus on a few words, not the whole book. You have to make grilled cheese and not a gourmet meal. And I was like, oh, I need to write that down to remind myself.
Yeah, and she leaves all the stuff to make the grilled cheese, which my only concern with that is that you know dairy will spoil so quickly. So
Oh, I was right there with you. I was like, did she leave in a hurry? Like, just put a note that says, hey, left you ingredients in the refrigerator.
yeah.
Because the cheese and butter was just not there. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah. Well, and so she is recording these videos that go along with the app,
Mhm.
and she's talking about decorating the tree and her special Christmas sock that she got when she was adopted.
Yeah.
And this felt pretty legit for
Yeah.
again for one of these kind of movies. They usually get the anything social media or influencing or anything. They usually get it totally wrong.
Yeah.
And
It's like
so
they've
they
never
did
used social media a day in their life.
right. Yeah, they usually get it so wrong. But this felt like a legit live YouTube video to me. And then later on, when she does the gingerbread house, that felt also pretty legit, I think. I
Yeah.
could see that on YouTube.
Yeah, I was like, oh, is she making TikToks? But then
Yeah, or TikToks. Yeah.
But she says she's making it for the blog. So, but yeah,
Or I think
definitely
it's part of the app. There's
oh,
like a live vlog feature or whatever.
gotcha.
But and she encourages him to go to the snowflake ball. She says, "Small steps, grilled cheese, your life." Which is cute.
And the snowflake ball is the invitation that she found in his
Right.
recycling, and she
In
decided to
recycling.
keep it and RSVP to it.
But
And
he
I like
wrote-
how she's like +1, like I'm going to
Uh-huh.
this.
Yeah, and he writes 10,000 words, and he's like confident making these grilled cheese.
Okay.
He's so charming. Oh my gosh.
Can we put a pin in it for just a second?
Yes.
Someone writing 10,000 words overnight, I was like, that seems impossible. I was like, I'm a professor. We write research articles, things like that. And every day people are like trying to, in the summer, they're writing. And so they're posting. And at most I've seen people write like 1,000 to 2,000 words a day. I was like, 10,000, you had a major breakthrough, friend. Again,
Yeah, I
she
used to
provides more for him than he does for her. And his exchange for 10,000 words was one grilled cheese sandwich.
But he was so charming making it, I thought. He was
I
just-
agree.
Yeah.
I just was like,
And
10,000 words.
10,000 is a
maybe
lot.
Yeah.
I used to do NaNoWriMo, National
Yeah.
Novel Writing Month, and in
Yeah.
that you have to do 50,000 words in the month.
Yeah.
So
that's
basically,
wild.
yeah. So basically 2,000 a day,
then-
a little under.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's like non-professional. So I think a professional could probably write when they're in like the zone and they're really feeling it. Could probably
10,000
write.
words feels like so much.
I think a professional when they're in the vibe could probably write double that. So I'd say 4,000, 10,000 is a lot, but she's just so inspiring. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like,
Yeah.
she brought a lot.
Yeah. And she tells him about her parents, and she says, and he says, "Am I that much of an open book?" And he says, or she says, "Am I that much of an open book?" And he says, "More like an audiobook," which I thought was a cute line.
Yeah,
That
that
was
was a
good.
good one. I
Yeah.
wanted her to say, are you saying that I talk a lot?
Yeah. So then they go out Christmas shopping, and there's a really fun scene where they go to the coffee shop, and the girl, the barista, is a big fan of her, not
I
him.
know, that was amazing. I was
And-
like, yeah.
And she asked for the gingerbread house demo, which gingerbread houses are impossible. They are so hard.
I got one when I was home alone for Christmas in 2020. Like, my parents weren't vaccinated yet, so I didn't want to get them sick or anything. So I got one of those Target ones, and I spent like 5 minutes on it, and I was like, forget it. This is terrible. I'm a failure.
It's hard to get them all to
How do
stick
I have
and
a
everything.
PhD? How can I function as a person in society? I cannot even make a gingerbread house. I was so mad.
It's really hard.
So mad.
So they go into Bellamia Diamonds, which is basically like your Tiffany's of this movie.
Yeah.
And he gives her the idea for the proposal for one of the clients that we'd seen earlier.
Mhm.
That they're building the snowman, and they give each of the parts of the snowman, the carrot, the coal, the whatever.
Yep.
And then last thing, the ring, which is
Yep.
very cute.
Yeah, adorable.
Yeah, and she's like, who knew there was a romantic in there somehow?
Yeah. Deep down under the dark jeans.
Yeah.
Sorry. I cracked me up.
It was really good. Then they talk about every step of the relationship. He says, I write for when they can't live with each other anymore.
Mm.
And then she says, I've dated some serious losers. That hasn't but that hasn't changed my views on relationships. But she says she's never been in love.
She's been dating. Who's she been dating, Eva? Let's talk about this. Let's problem solve.
Yeah. Well, in the book, she is kind of, I would say, more like naive. She when she goes to the snowflake ball, she starts flirting with guys that aren't maybe the best, and
that's where his editor, publisher, agent, or whatever comes in. That guy was gross.
But she says she's never been in love, but it's on my bucket list. And he says the type of love you're looking for doesn't exist, and she says, well, I'll prove you wrong.
Get him.
So cute. Oh, I love it. So then she gives him Pride and Prejudice for a Christmas present.
Yes.
And she says that Jane Austen writes emotionally complex characters with a happy ending. And he says, you want me to write happy thrillers?
Yeah, that would be terrible. I mean, a happy ending in a crime is solving the case. So let's do that.
I mean, I guess there are these cozy mysteries, kind of your Jessica Fletcher type of stories that we have on Hallmark. So maybe he could write something like that, but still. But he could be like John Grisham, who writes all the legal thrillers, but then also has like Christmas with the Cranks and his other novels.
Oh, John
light
Grisham.
novels, or even Stephen King, because Stephen King has the thrillers, but then he also has Shawshank Redemption and things like that.
Amazing.
So
I wonder how many words a day Stephen King writes.
Yeah, that would be interesting to know, because his books are so long.
I
know. So then they have the gingerbread house demo, which was really funny and cute.
Yeah.
I love that scene.
You know what I thought was going to happen? So she has an issue and she calls for him, and so he comes on screen and he's recorded. I thought it was going to turn into this, like, it goes viral and Lucas, whatever, Blade has been spotted with, like, I thought I was going to turn into something like that. That's what I thought. I was like, oh, here's going to be even more of a conflict.
I'm glad they didn't do that. I really am.
Yeah.
So then they go to the snowflake ball with, like, there's some kind of performance, Nutcracker or something.
Yes.
And he gives her the green dress that she'd seen going shopping. And they look gorgeous. He looked so handsome in that tux. And she looked absolutely
I
stunning.
loved the color of the dress.
Yes, me too.
It's
Because
gorgeous.
I always complain about black dresses in Christmas movies. This was green. It was beautiful. She looked great in it.
Yes.
And again, he looked really handsome. You don't see tuxes that often in
She
Hallmark
was
movies.
like, everyone's looking at you. It's probably the tux. And then I started looking around. I was like, is anyone else wearing a tux? Buddy,
And
you might be overdressed.
Yes, he looked great, and he had that long, lingering look down perfect. Like you see
yes.
in these movies, particularly any of the Jane Austen movies. I feel like it's a British thing a lot of the times.
Yeah.
It's the British long, lingering look.
Oh, yeah. Across the room.
Yes, he had it. He was looking. It was really good. And he's donating his time. He's signing these books, which it does seem like kind of a weird fit, his books with this event, but whatever. He's so famous.
He's famous.
He's so famous.
And he made like a donation of money too. So I was like, okay.
It just seems like you'd want to have a Christmas book in your Christmas event, but
yeah, you're like, whatever.
He's so famous, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, beggars can't be choosers.
Yeah. And he sees Eva flirting with his agent friend, and he says, "I just don't want you being taken advantage of." And she says, "I can take care of myself. Thank you very much."
But I also like that part. I was like, why do you work for a guy like that? I was like, find a better agent or publisher or whoever it is. I was like, if you don't trust him with other people, why would you trust him to?
Yeah.
Like, that part bothered me. I was like, ugh. Gross.
Yeah. Why work with this person?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess maybe it's easy to sort of forgive. I don't know, forgive things in a relationship that's mainly transactional. But then
or I think it's like people can compartmentalize. But,
yeah.
But I just was like, he's terrible anyways. Like, drop him.
And then when we get back to the apartment and he's got the bow tie untied. You can see he's all like kind of brooding, and it was so great.
Rachel's like, yes.
And she says, "I want to find love. Why doesn't it want to find me?"
Because you went after that gross publisher guy at the party. That's why, Eva. That's why we need to troubleshoot who you're interested in. Like, it shouldn't just be anyone. It should be someone who's good for you. But that might have been Eva's problem. Anyone's find.
Yeah, as somebody who hasn't dated much in my life, I do think that sometimes you can be a little bit naive, and you can feel a little bit like, well, at least it's somebody kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like, I usually don't have much opportunity to go there, but I can imagine it being sort of tempting to be like, well, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Whereas
I'm like, I'd rather be alone forever. That's just a different point of view.
So the next day, there's the big proposal for the Genie client, and Lucas is very upset about the fact that Eva said, that she doesn't think she's going to find love, and she's so sad. And he says, "You deserve love. I would hate it if anything I said changed that." And he flies in. He's flown in her parents.
Oh. Yeah, which is amazing. And then he starts acting weird.
Well, but what I love is, so then she kisses him, which was, again, an early kiss for this kind of movie. And I just thought it was such a great little moment. It felt so authentic to the characters.
Yes.
And I loved that.
And I was like, okay, great. We're getting into the relationship. And then he was like, nope, just kidding. I'm going to be weird.
So he kind of freaks out, which is understandable, because this is all happening very fast. And
it is over a holiday season.
Yeah. And he says, "Go be happy. 'Tis the season." And and so she comes back and she thanks him, and then they do have this fight where she says, "I'm just a distraction to you," And then she says, I like you, Lucas. I like you a lot. I might even be falling in love with you. And he says, I don't know what to do with that. I don't know how to give you what you need. And
What?
she says, all I want is to love someone and for them to love me back.
And
And
that's where I was like, Eva, let's add a few more standards to that. Because that's great. But
she says,
also,
she says, I know this has been fast, but you make me happy. I've never once had to put on an act. This feels honest and real.
yeah.
And then he says, you say I make you happy. How?
Yeah, I was like, I also would like to know.
Ho, ho, ho! We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/hallmarkies.
And so yes, of course, in like the real world, she would probably just be like, okay, we can wait, like we don't have to. But I think it still works for this movie because you feel their chemistry and she knows that he feels it too.
Yeah.
And he's denying it. And so that's why she is, I think, a little pushy because she sees what he is. He's not being authentic to himself and she knows it. She knows that he loves her, but he's scared.
Well, I also think when he says, I don't know how to give you what you need. And when she just says, I just want someone to love me and for me to love them back. And that's where there does need to be additional things there. I think he's saying he needs help. So what does that entail? He doesn't know. And so I kind of thought can we be a little bit more descriptive?
Well, and
this is like a vague paper I'm grading for classes. What are you talking about? Give him more information.
And she says by being, when he says, how do I make you happy? And she says, by being you, just admit you have feelings for me and we can spend the rest of our lives making each other happy, which again is pretty fast, but I bought it because I just felt such a chemistry between them. And I felt like she knew that that's what he wanted too, but he was kind of scared.
Yeah. But I also, like I said, I think he's asking for her to come in and say can we talk about this, and because he doesn't, like I said, my main gripe with this whole movie is that she brings so much to the table. She betters his life. And basically, from her point of view, he's just there for her to love. And it's but that's not entirely what relationships exist or why they exist or how they work. And I know some people are probably listening going, but it is a movie and we want them to get together. And I'm very much the relationship person is how can we make this long term? Can we, can we think about ways that he can add a little bit more? And I think he has those things, but I don't think he knows what to do because he's been in a depressed state for 3 years and without a lot of interaction or creative inspiration and that sort of thing. And so she serves a lot of different things for him. She brings him out of a depression. She helps him through writer's block. She helps him get out and talk to people. She's doing so much. And I think he understands that he's not doing the same for her. and he's asking, that's his issue, is like, what can I do? And like, I don't think she answers that. And I think that is a fair question from his point of view.
Yeah, but then I think that he kind of comes around in this last act, where he then does become almost the protagonist in this last act. It almost switches from being about her to being about him.
The only issue I have with that is the end scene, or like the last act of the play is about movie, Alysa, is about him getting her the ring that she always wanted. So it then becomes something materialistic, and I'm like, you're not there to serve her every whim through money. Like, what he did to fly the parents in was amazing. It's a lovely surprise. The dressing was a lovely surprise, but I want him to bring something else besides.
But I think
money.
he did, because he writes the whole book about her that she wanted him to write. And gives her the copy of his manuscript. And anyway, but we're jumping ahead. So
sorry.
he's no, it's good points. But when he puts her hands down, and he's just like, I can't do. Oh,
yeah, I was like, oh,
like, no, gracious. You know you're in love with her. Oh my gosh.
Talk it through, people.
So then she's talking to her parents, and they say nothing in life is easy and love is no exception. And she says, I know he loves me. Again, that's why I find, because I've talked to a few other people who find her to be a little too much. But for me, I felt like I was fine with the quick nature of the romance, because they had spent so much intense time together, and because I felt like she wasn't like bullying him into the relationship. I felt like she knew that he loved her. But I also love that whole scene when he's just like staring at the Christmas painting in the house, and he's crying. You're like, and so he goes and talks to his mom.
Yes.
And he says, I'm madly in love with her. Oh, I love that scene so much.
He was finally honest with his mother. Another thing that
good.
Eva has done.
And he says, it can't be that simple. And she says, when you find love like this, you can't let it go. And she talks about how her marriage to his father, that they didn't know each other long and ended up together for 2 decades. And it's sometimes you do. Sometimes it is fast. Sometimes you know, and it's great.
I'm not bored with fast moving. If people know, they know. I think there are some things that make people more prone to quickness that could lead to some problematic things later. But I'm definitely, I want the relationship to last though, which is why I have all the questions I do. I'm on board with, I mean, they essentially live together.
Right, yeah.
Which is, again, they're both fully dressed in like respectable pants and tops the entire time. And I was like, there's no like, I had my makeup off, or like I had bedhead. There was like none of that. I was like, come on, you live in the same house right now. I want to see those sort of like embarrassing, endearing moments.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
But
true.
I guess you're more likely to have those moments when you wear sweatpants 2 days in a row.
But I just, when he says I'm madly in love with her, I just think that is such a swoon-worthy line. It's so good. And so
yeah, my answer to that is me too. Eva's great.
yeah, agreed. So she gets his book, and it's called A Threat to His Heart. Oh, that was really good. And it's a Final Genie request. They interrupt the brunch, which is for lonely people on Christmas Day, including Charlie, who gets a dog, which was adorable.
He went from a husky to a dachshund. I was like,
yeah.
But also, I had, this is just real quick, I was so confused on time. Like, the things they were doing on, like, the 24th and then Christmas Day, I was like, I always thought nothing happened on these days. Yeah. And I was like, there's people just walking around.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you have enough money to open up. Like, who's this person at the diamond place is like, you know what? I will get up for these people.
Well, at least it wasn't as bad as some of these other movies where they have like a full-on presentation to the board on Christmas Day. You
Yeah,
see this.
what
Like,
is
we gotta
that?
do that in these movies. I'm
Like,
like,
I
nobody
mean-
is around. Nobody works on Christmas. Like, even if you're Jewish or, you know, don't celebrate Christmas, you still don't work on Christmas. Like, nobody works on Christmas.
I mean, okay, I take that back. I
the movie
but I worked
theater
at a
does.
movie theater from when I was 16 to 22
Yeah,
or
that's true.
17 to 22. So, but like that's all I thought was open. That and like
Yeah.
Subway. You know,
Chinese
like I didn't
food.
know that and I think like not everything should be locked down because not everyone does celebrate Christmas. But I just was like so confused about all the like they got into lunch at the plaza on Christmas Eve. I was like, I don't know a lot about New York City, but I'm pretty sure you can't just walk into the plaza. And like her parents didn't have
her parents
money.
were guests there.
Well,
weren't they
just like
staying
the
at the plaza?
restaurant. But like the restaurant, you can just get in here. Like she was like, we went to the top of the Empire State Building. I was like, is that even open?
That's true.
I just was like confused a little bit. I was like, I would change the timeline slightly.
Yeah, that's fair.
But I was like, everyone's just like, yeah, let's work on Christmas. And
also, top of the Empire State Building, overrated. Isn't that great?
real talk. I had like a panic attack in the crowd and the line going up. And
the line is like, so long. And
so I was
boring.
just so happy to be like, I have freedom, fresh air. But yeah, it was fine. But like there was way too many people. And it's like long, like triple the size of like the most popular roller coaster ride. But they're zigzagging the line inside. It's not outdoors, friends. It's not outdoors. And it was the first time I ever felt that way. So it was really scary for me because I'd never been so concerned about like people and the crowd and the noise and all that. And so I was like really concerned something was wrong with me. And then, you get to the top and you're like, okay. And you're like going to do that on Christmas Eve? I don't think so.
So she gets his book and then goes and sees him in front of Bellamia. And he says that I was living in the dark for 3 years. And then you burst into my life with your full wadded smile and your sunbeam personality, impeccable decorating skills. You brought light into every dark corner of my life. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I love you, Eva. Oh.
And
so
then
good.
What does she say? Oh. Should we go back to brunch?
Well, yeah, because he says, my heart is yours forever if you will have me. And she says, of course I will. I love you, Lucas.
Yeah, but then
she says, can we go to brunch?
And he's like, yeah, I think we'll go in a few, but let's go inside and get that ring you want. But I was like cracking up. I was like, she's like, but what about Charlie and the dachshund and my parents who didn't seem concerned that I was leaving on Christmas Day at all?
And he says, I hope you can go in there and pick one you like for the rest of your life. And I thought that was such a sweet, lovely, I've never heard anybody propose that way. And I thought it was very sweet. Pick
I
one
like
out
it
to
because
wear
it's
for the
like,
rest of your life.
Well, but also like sometimes like I think of Sex in the City where oh gosh, Aiden has a ring and it's like all wrong. Like she's like, diamond cut and gold.
We just covered that actually just last week.
It's like she doesn't want to marry him, but that's neither here nor there. But I just think like there is something about like I think most people have a pretty clear idea of what they like and want, and so why risk it? Let her pick it out. It's gonna be hers for life. Let her pick it out.
Support her in that also way. Like because Bellamia was obviously something special to her and meaningful, so every aspect of this proposal is extremely thoughtful to her. And I mean, especially getting them to open it on Christmas Day, which thank goodness for that girl who was willing to do that on Christmas.
But I'm sure money was involved. But also, like, I just thought after that, I was like, well, if he didn't already have a job, he could work for Urban Genie because he's really got great ideas for proposals. If the writing doesn't work out.
Yeah, that's the end of the movie, and I just
It ended very fast. I
Yeah,
thought it would be
it did end
like
fast.
3 months later, or seeing everyone enjoying
Oh, like
brunch
an
and
epilogue?
bacon. Yeah, I was like, oh, credits. Hi. Okay, well, they're together forever. I just liked it that I wanted more, I guess.
Yeah. So I just absolutely love this movie. I think it's and the more I see it, the more I think about it, the more I love it. So I would give it 5 crowns. To me, it is just chef's kiss.
I'm gonna give it a 4.75. I
Yeah,
really enjoyed
very
it,
high.
but I think I've been pretty clear on my gripes.
Yeah, no, that's
and
all
I'll
fair
stand by
points.
them.
Fair points.
But I also, what I think is great about this is, like, as you know, I'm more of a Lifetime true crime sort of person than I was Hallmark growing
Yeah.
up. And then
You'd like
I
to read his
study
books.
and I love relationships and things like that. But my main goal is, like, if you want it, how can we make it last? So I always am like 10 steps ahead. Okay, well,
Yeah.
what are you going to do? Where other folks might be caught up in what's happening now, I'm always
Yeah.
looking to the future to be like, all right, let's focus on relationship maintenance.
Well, let us know in the comments if you got to see this. What did you think of it? And we will put a link to the interview that we did with
Yes.
Catherine and Olivier. Again, they were amazing. So great
So
together.
adorable.
Yes.
And
so
not in a way
cute.
that I dislike her for it. No, just kidding.
Yeah. No, I mean, she should, if she wanted, I think she could have a really great career just doing basically like a Alysa Bear career and doing
Yes,
these movies.
absolutely.
She's so good.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I recommend the book. I'll put a link down. We've talked about it on our romantic reading wrap up. We didn't. It was one of our reading roundup books. It wasn't one of the featured books, but anyway, we talked about it, and we've talked about Sarah Morgan quite a bit. She's a great writer. Again, a little bit of steam, so don't get mad at me.
It gets a little hot and spicy.
But it's so good. I loved it. So check that out. And thanks so much. This is always so much fun to get to do. We have a blast. So we appreciate it. So Alysa, where can people find you?
Yes, you can find me. Dr. Alysa Lucas is my personal Twitter, and then friends W Alysa on Twitter, and that's also my webpage. Everywhere else, Instagram, Facebook, it's Friends with Alysa. And then just a note, that's like a name that covers all my podcasts, and so my podcast names are actually Best Forevers, Fatalities, and soon to come Unrequited.
Nice. And this is our 31st on Friendship episode.
What?
Can you believe it?
Yeah. My longest relationship.
All right. Well, make sure that y'all are following me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod, Hallmarkies Podcast, all of your social media. I'll put a playlist to all of our Friendship episodes in the description, so check that out. And then also, if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. That helps us so much. 5 stars. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. We also have our patron group and merch store. So take a look at that. And thanks so much, everybody. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.